There's one other little vignette TJ's prompted me, kind of reminding me, but I want to just share. Earlier I've been talking about, Peepaw showed up a lot in this video series. He was a little bit larger than life in the family, Talked about how he was so upset that Vicki and I went to Bible college after we got married. We were married. He couldn't say much about that, so I was my own man. When Tony went, then later that summer, he was very upset, my brother Tony. And then he was very strident against what we were doing. He didn't understand it. That's why he wrote in that letter to people don't understand. He said you don't understand what they're doing because they don't know what they're doing. And that was a confession. He didn't understand it. But, over the years then, when we considered stayed in this path, it wasn't a flash in the pan. He could see our lives changing, other lives changing. That marked him. His life changed. He came to Christ. Me and Mimo both. Mimo became a prolific study of the Bible, many Beth Moore courses and all that stuff. And they went to church, they went to Sunday school, they had friends, they had a small group, they really pursued God and His Word, and they would read the Bible. And like I said, though, it was like all of us at some level, but there was just some darkness in him that really just still overcame him and lasted his whole life from time to time. He could not get over when he felt offended that you wronged him and that Tony wronged him or disrespected him. There's another whole story with your dad up there at the cabin, and with Salam, that neighbor, and Dad was upset with that neighbor and Tony's friendship with the Arab neighbor. And when Salam smoked in the cabin, and the rule was no smoking in the cabin, and Tony let Salam smoke a cigar in the cabin, and Dad went ballistic over that because that was the rule. He was you follow the rules, and he had sinus troubles, and smoke for him was a bad thing. Tony didn't stand up to Salam to stop smoking. He let him smoke, and Dad exploded over that, and that became the genesis of a massive disconnect and fight for years because Dad felt Tony betrayed him, and he called him a Judas. You're my Judas son. My Judas son, you betrayed me. Can you imagine? Anyway, this darkness just caught him, even though he was genuinely pursuit of God at times and the light in the dark, So, but as we said earlier in some of the stories, Tony started the Bible study in his basement. He came to Florida, heard me teach. He saw the life changes, the lasting life change, and it marked him, and it changed him too at some levels. So one of the things that happened was he was against me going to Bible college. Then he was proud I was a teacher. Then I went to the church in New Jersey and became a pastor. Well, they came to New Jersey and visited, and he sees me in this big church, And he was proud I was a pastor now. Of course, they were more in faith, and I come back to St. Louis, and they'd set up so I could preach at their church a couple of times, that kind of a thing. So he's proud of me. And he'd tell me. I started doing missions trip, all this mission stuff at times. He called me Paul, like the Apostle Paul, because I was leading mission trips, But anywhere in there, when we moved from Jacksonville Chapel to Texas, so now I've been a teacher, I've made him proud, I'm at a church, big church in New Jersey, I've made him proud. Now I tell him, we're leaving the church and we're going into missions. You're what? So now this gets dicey again. Oh, and by the way, they don't pay us a salary. We have to raise our financial support. You what? You got my 3 grandkids, you got a wife, you got a house. How can you leave? Once again, I'm doing something he don't understand, but now it's at another level. And one time we come back to St. Louis during that transition, and he says, as he often would, hey, let's go for a ride. That means get in my car, I'm going to go talk to you. And this was like, you just didn't want to hear that, right? I don't want to go for a ride. You didn't have a choice. So he gets me in his car, drives me. Then he pulls over in some neighborhood and just parks the car, turns it off. All right. What is this thing you're doing? And he's upset. What are you doing leaving the church, and you're going to be a pauper and a beggar, and you're going to be poor. And he can't understand that this raising support thing. You don't get it. This means you find people who believe in your ministry, and they give financially every month to your ministry through GMF, through E3. They give to your support account, and then you're paid out of that support account, right? That's the way it works. That's the world of missions. Always has been, always will be. So what happens is he's confronting me about being irresponsible, raising support. How are you going to do that? You got a family, you got children. So God gave me the answer on the spot, and it was just very, very, very cool. I say, Dad, I'm a pastor at the church, right? Where does the money come from that I'm paid every 2 weeks through Jacksonville Chapel? Where's the money come from? So he says, well, through the people. I said, yeah, right. Well, but how do the people give the money? He goes, well, they take offerings at church services, right? People put money in the plate or whatever they do. Now they give online and all this other stuff. Back then, pass the plate, people put money, checks in. And I said, that's exactly right. My salary, my money comes from God's people given as free will offerings to the church. So he put that money in a bucket in the church, and part of that bucket has been called Sam Ingrassia's salary. So the free will offerings of God's people comes to a bucket, and I'm paid out of the bucket. Dad, it's no different at E3 Partners, Global Missions Fellowship at the time. The only difference is I do now need to pray and talk and to find my congregation. In other words, Jacksonville Chapel was the congregation. I now have to find a congregation. Well, guess what? The chapel was part of my congregation. People at the chapel continued to be part of my congregation. People in St. Louis, Florida, people we knew. Over time, people were said, people give to people they know, love, and believe in and care for, and we care for what you're doing. We believe in you. And I was leading those mission trips to Haiti, and there were people that thought when I went into mission, they said, we knew this was going to happen. And people gave. Until to this day, in 2024, I'm still on support. People, churches give monthly to Gigi and I, and that's how we get paid through E3 Partners. So I said, Dad, I just got to go find my own congregation. It's still God's provision through his people of free will offerings to some bucket that we're paid out of. That's the answer. And he just looked at me like, okay. It's like, what could he say? That was it. Now, it makes it a little scary to find that congregation, but God provided those people. And what happened to GMF was amazing. It's different than a lot of missionaries. You know what it meant? Because I'm mobilizing people and taking a bunch of people on mission trips all the time. So guess what? You know what that meant? I got a new crop of people every time who begin to grow, love us, me and Vicky, and what we're doing, and their life-changing missions. And it's like, that was new people who could be asked to participate. Yeah, I've been doing this for 31 years. Everybody, there's been people who have been with us for 31 years. The chapel and others, a bunch of them. But since then, there's a whole big crop of people that have come on our support team since then, you know? So that was my answer for his support raising challenge, you know, and it was the answer. Now, so we get on to Dallas, and here's the story I was referring to that is really endearing. So we're at GMF, and he's beginning to get proud of me again, because now I'm doing missions like Paul. And not only that, we have that Serenade Lane brick house. You got to have a brick house, Grandpa used to say. Right? So I got a brick house. And my family's growing. We're doing good. So they come down to visit one time. Meemaw and Peepaw stay with us, and we happen to be having a GMF chapel. So once a month, we have a chapel service. Family gets together, staff gets together, and somebody speaks. They sing a bunch of songs. People give testimonies from around the world what we do. And so then we have this chapel. I might have spoke that day. I don't remember. So my mom and dad are there. Everybody's meeting Sam's parents, right? So at the very end, they're about to wrap it up. I don't know, Mike Downey or Curtis Hale, somebody's like, hey, anybody got anybody want to, we're going to wrap it up here anyway. All of a sudden, Peepaw says, I'd like to say something. I was like, oh, what's he going to say? What's he going to say? And he stands up, He stands up from his seat. My mom's sitting next to him. He says, I want to say something. He says, what y'all are doing here is amazing. I mean, these stories, he says something like that, like affirming everybody what we're doing. And then he says, I have to tell you that when Sam and Vicki were coming to do all this, I was against it. I was completely against it. I didn't understand. And he said, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And I just want to say I'm proud of them and I'm proud of all you. And it's a blessing. He kind of wrapped it up a little bit. But that one powerful line was, he said, I was against it and I was wrong. And dude, if you've heard some of these stories I've been telling these videos, that was something you didn't hear much. My dad was Enneagram 1. Ones are right. Ones are always right. And it's their way or the highway if they're unhealthy. It's quality, right, excellent. Don't tell me nothing different. And when he gets stuck in that thing, that's what tripped him up. And he couldn't see that Tony was allowed to have his own property, make his own decisions, or somebody was able to do, or work, or a neighbor, or what. They didn't rake the leaves the way he raked them. And he was so stuck on that, my way's the right way. And so for him to say in front of all my colleagues, that was amazing and certainly endearing, that he humbled himself and said, I was against it and I was wrong. So that was a feather in Peepaw's cap, I think Stephen and Tony would agree probably. I think I had the best relationship with him overall. There was only one time I can remember for a little season he was sort of really mad at me, or several different times. I made these decisions. We're going to Bible college or what, but we made it through. But overall, I was the firstborn. I was the oldest, and I was pretty reliable and trustworthy, successful, and I got it done. And even when he was confused, I was able to win him over. So during those latter years when he was at odds with my brothers, your dad, Tony, and then Stephen, I was oftentimes trying to get in there to negotiate it and solve it and help fix it and help people talk and communicate. And finally it was like I remember telling Tony, dude, let it go, man. You're trying to get him in counseling. You're trying to get him to understand. You're trying to get him to see Bob Levin. You got to try to get Tony was forever trying to work it out, And I remember telling him, dude, only one person can change somebody, and it's called God. And if he can knock Saul off his high horse into the dust of the Damascus road and change him to the Apostle Paul, he could change Dad if he wants to. And he has changed Dad in some ways. He was different, but he was stuck in ways that he was unstuckable, Even I'd try to get in there and try to help, and again, there would be times he'd cry, he'd kind of see it, and we'd think, there's a breakthrough, Dad's, and he might have an experience like that for a little while, and then, but before you know it, man, he'd flip back and, those people, and it just would take him down again. And it's sad, that he died on that opening day of turkey season in 2002. And we've often wondered why on opening day of turkey season he got a turkey. Was he mad that day angry that he should have been hunting with his son and his grandson, turkey hunting, and he couldn't be with them because we wonder if he was, worked up and his blood pressure, and then he had a heart attack. We don't know. Nobody knows what happened in that truck but God. And the turkey don't even know because he was dead. But he had a turkey in there, and that turkey was untagged, they say, which probably meant he didn't want to tag that bird. He just wanted to get it home, and he wanted to keep hunting. So see, that's kind of funny. There's your Enneagram 1 who was breaking the rules. So he'd break the rules for his benefit, but nobody else could break the rules. And he was a piece of work. But a lot of upside to people, a lot of challenging side to people.
In just a few months, you're going to be older than he was the day he died.
Yeah, that's what I said.
How are you feeling about
Well,
that?
I'm 71. He died at 71 in 8 months. I'm at 71 in 1 month. So if I live as long as people, I got 7 months to go. Dude, I feel young. You're 38. I think I'm your contemporary. That's how I feel emotionally, And I'm an avid racquetball player. Everybody knows that. Kicking many young butts in racquetball. I'm athletic. I played tennis. I played high school tennis. I played varsity tennis in college. Played tennis most of my life. Gotten into racquetball. I love ping pong. I'm a racket sport guy, So these guys, I beat these guys in their 30s, your age. There's one guy named Rick, and he's like, act your age, Quit whipping my butt in racquetball. So how do I feel? I feel great. I mean, I'm blessed. I feel good, and I pray God because I need to be healthy. I need to be healthy because Vicky's not. And I sometimes if that anxiety catches me, it's like, what if I get sick? What if she's sick and I'm sick? I mean, we'd be in trouble, man. Because she's in no condition to take care of just herself, a bit, right? And so I pray for good health. But if I have the legacy Grandpa had, Grandpa Ingrassia, he lived to like 94 or something, 3 or 4. And he just passed away sitting in a chair finally at the nursing home. He just looked like he was sleeping, they said. He just, boop, went on. So
I more meant emotionally. How are you feeling about
just the emotionally?
Specifically about it's got to be kind of weird. Like in a few months, I'm going to be older than my father ever was.
Yeah, that's right. Well, how do I feel? I don't know. That's how I feel emotionally. I mean, I'm not bothered by it. It feels weird. It's like surreal. That's what I'm trying to say to you. 71? Which, like we said, how did that happen? I think I'm 38. I played pickleball with you yesterday. We had golf balls. I play racquetball. I'm very active, so I don't feel. Now, to 2009 and 10, when I was sick for 2 years, that was another story. So I'm telling you, a lot of it has to do with physicality. The reason Vicky feels terrible is it's her body. And then your body takes your spirit and your emotion down because it's all connected. Your emotion can be amped up and hurt your body. Ulcers, headaches, backaches, people that are amped up, their body can get sick. But if your body gets an illness, then it'll likewise affect you emotionally and even spiritually, and that's where her struggle is. Although, kudos to Gigi, she's doing well spiritually and emotionally. What you witnessed in her decline, it's her fatigue, it's her body. So we're praying some of these medicines might help turn the corner. I don't know. God knows. But it just feels surreal to think, if I make 7 more months, I'm older than people ever was. Well, then my next sight is on Grandpa, right? So I got to go for 93.
If you can make it 7 more months, then you just have to make it 23 more years.
23 more years, which would make you 61.
Still 10 years younger than you are.
Still 10 years younger than I am today. So, I hope you outlast me, GJ, for sure. I want you to come to my funeral. I don't want to go to yours. Trust me.
Well, I have to preach at your funeral, so
You
I
have to preach. That's right. You have to preach at my funeral.
after you preach.
I forgot about that. I guess since we're shooting this, one more little prop I had here, memorabilia. This little statue of the Holy Family, as the Catholics would call it, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. And I got this from my mom. It looks like Mary was broke off at one time and glued back. Can you imagine? I don't know when that happened. But I wrote on the bottom of this. I oftentimes do this with things in the house that are heirloomish, so the people in the future will be able to know what it was, So this says, wedding gift to Angelo Mary Ingrassia, October 11th, 1952, within a week of my conception. From Bessie Russo, who lived in Texas. Oh, by the way, this connects with the other story. It's Bessie's mother was killed in the car accident when Catherine Bono died in Bryan, Texas. It was June 1961. So remember that tragic story about my dad's cousin, Catherine Bono, dying? It was a car accident in Bryan, Texas. They had come down to see this Russo family. They were family friends. And Aunt Frida was driving that car. I don't know if she made a mistake or what happened, but she pulled out somehow, but she was the driver.
Because there's a Frida on each side. Which Frida?
No, not Frida. Aunt Frida, Grandpa's sister. That was the only Frida.
Yeah.
There was a Lena on both sides.
Oh, Lena.
Aunt Lena Biondo, Aunt Lena DiCarlo. But can you imagine that then? Aunt Frida, that lady, she was driving the car that their friend's mother was killed and her only daughter was killed. How did that woman process that? I don't know. But she was a tough old bird. She was. Aunt Frida. And this says, given to Sam Ingrassia by his mother Mary in May 2006. So this is 4 years after Peepaw died, she gave it to me. But this was sitting on the dresser in their bedroom since the wedding day. So this is a wedding gift. This little statue was created, or I guess around that time. So what's this thing is like 20, this thing's like 75 years old or something at least. And I can also tell you this, it was like, this was the Catholic thing, I can remember as a little boy, I'm gonna go to bed, my mom would they'd get this statue down and say, okay, give Joseph a kiss, give Holy Mary Mother a kiss, and give Jesus a kiss. And we would kiss the statue, right? Wow, that's a very Catholic thing to do. Or an Orthodox thing to do. Not a Protestant Christian thing to do. So I'm not against these images. I don't get all wigged on it. This is a family heirloom. And golly, it's got these little cracks on it. I don't know if I should try to put some glue on them or what. But anyway, this sits in my office now. And again, I'm saying this now. You're watching this video. Maybe one of you got this sitting in your house. I hope somebody does. That this is another example. This ain't going in no trash, not as long as I'm alive. And if you got it, please don't put it in the trash. Just keep passing it on. Like I said before about the sewing machine or whatever. What was I talking about?
Peepaw's wallet.
Peepaw's wallet and the sewing machine. Those are not allowed to go in nobody's trash. They must stay in somebody's home until Jesus comes. Then you can give those things to him. Amen. All right, that's it.
That's it. We did it.
Look at it. It's 8 o'clock. Did we shoot for 12 hours?
8:05, yep.
Oh, my God.